Hello, my friends. It's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my wrap up for the month of August. If you are not new here, hi, hello. You may have noticed that this is a little bit different than what I normally do. I normally split my reading wrap ups into two parts. I do a mid-month wrap up in the middle of the month, and then an end wrap up, typically, because at one point in time I was reading anywhere up to like 20 books in a month, and doing a full wrap up at the end of the month just became too much. But when it came time to do my mid-month wrap up this month, I had only read 2 books. So I decided to just wait and just do a full big wrap up. So let me know before I get into all these books if you like this, if you prefer this, because I know I just don't really think that my wrap ups are my most viewed videos. So if I take out my mid-month wrap up, that leaves room for other content that I can create. Or if you really like the wrap ups, just let me know in a comment, what you like. Anyway, before we get into these books, because I did actually read 10 books, I just apparently saved them all for the end of the month. Before we get into all of those books, please make sure if you like this video that you're hitting the thumbs up button and also subscribing if you haven't already. I post videos every Thursday and Sunday, and I post videos. It's for romance, love and gal here. I post about wrap-ups, recommendation videos, hauls, book unboxings. It's a great time here. So I appreciate every single one of you that has joined me here. We're gonna get settled in to talk about all of these books. So for the most part, I had a really great reading month. Like I said, I did end up reading 10 books. I did find some not great books, which might be kind of controversial because the book that I'm going to talk about, you'll see here in a little bit, is a really hyped book and a really hyped author that I just really didn't like. But I did also find 2 new 5-star reads. So I'm super excited about those. I did read one arc. It was a fun time. So we're going to get into all of those books. So the first one is going to be Man-Eater by Morgan Elizabeth. This is an arc that I read, but it has already come out in August. Definitely recommend checking this one out as a contemporary romance, as is all of Morgan Elizabeth's romances. This one is our female main character. She is undercover. It kind of gave me a little bit of like Charlie's Angels vibes. So she's undercover investigating this resort because somebody is trying to sabotage and shut down the resort. So she's hired by the owners to go undercover and investigate who might be the cause of this. Well, our male main character, he is the VP of operations for this resort system. He is also trying to figure out what's going on, and he has known our female main character around, and he is just very surprised by her and just has been trying to figure out what she is doing. He thinks she is a gold digger because he is always just seeing her around these very elite and expensive type of men, but she's never with them for very long. So he's trying to figure out what she's doing there, and she's trying to keep herself, not tell him what's going on, because that's part of her job, is to keep what she's doing there hush hush, and not even he's supposed to know. But he is also very attracted to her, and of course, because it's a rom-com, one thing leads to another, and they end up having a romance. And this was so fun. I gave this one 4 stars. I have not rated a book from Morgan Elizabeth lower than 4 stars because I always have a great time. It's always hilarious. This one is another Grumpy Sunshine, which I think she ends up writing for all of her books. They're on vacation, so I think this is like a really great romance to read during the summer months, or if you go on a vacation to like a tropical region. It's spicy. It's just a fun time. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I believe this will end up being a series. I don't know what this series is called yet. Maybe it might be The Mavens, potentially. So I'm excited to see where Morgan Elizabeth takes us next. Then I read Halfling by Essie Wendell. This is the first book in her Monstrous World series. So this is a fantasy romance series. In this one, our female main character, she is a human and she is out traveling. She ends up getting kidnapped and sold to an orc camp. So while she is there, and she's tied up in this orc camp, our male main character, who is a half orc, he is known as a halfling, comes to her aid and rescues her. He has been living in this camp because that's just all he's ever known. He's grown up there, but he doesn't really fit in anywhere because he's not orc enough. He's not tall enough to fit in with the orcs, but he's too scary to fit in with the humans. So he's kind of just in this like limbo kind of phase. So he rescues her and she's so far away from home and she doesn't know how to get back there. So he decides to help her and they are traveling together to take her back to her family. And it's so good. So I give this one 4 stars. It's got that good like forced proximity trope to it because they have to travel together. I don't remember if they have that like one tent, one sleeping bag kind of situation. I think there is at one point a one bed scenario in here. So I love that the ways to force these two characters together. This is the sweetest romance between these two characters. Our male main character is such a cinnamon roll. And I just love that. He is such a consent king as well because he finds himself, he realizes that she is his fated mate, but he is so wary. Like he knows that he's different from what she's used to. He doesn't want to scare her off. So he doesn't act on this because he doesn't want to be like some of his orc family. And he wants to be kind to her, and it's so beautiful. So of course with them like getting to know each other, she also starts to fall for him, and so then she starts wondering about maybe they could be together. So it does have a little bit of like a slow burn to it, but then once these characters realize that they both want each other and are both very attracted to one another, the spice on this be spicing. Hello. My only complaint with this one, and it is a very minor complaint, I feel like, because overall I thoroughly enjoyed this story, is that I felt like it was just a little bit long. I think we could have cut back by like 50, maybe 100 pages or somewhere around in that range, and it would have been better in my opinion. It just dragged on a little bit longer than I felt like was necessary. But otherwise, I feel like that's such a minor complaint. The rest of the story was just chef's kiss. I loved it. Then I read Blood Sweeter Than Honey by Chiara Forestieri. I'm probably butchering that last name. I was in a monster romance kind of mood, and I'm still a little bit in a monster romance kind of mood. This one is more of a like paranormal romance. Our female main character, she is a half demon, half fae, and she is from another realm. She has a lot of trauma in her past, but now at the current part of our story, she has been gifted, her cousin is like the queen and has gifted her a title, so she is part of like the royalty of sorts, but she is not that great at it. It's very stressful for her and overwhelming for her, and she decides that she just needs a break. She needs to go on a vacation and relax and come back and things will be so much better. So she finds a witch that's able to create a portal to a different realm, and this witch chooses the human realm to send her to. But when she arrives in the human realm, she comes across this like wild boar and she gets injured. And then the sheriff of this town that she lands in takes her and decides that our male main character of the story, who owns a ranch, he's a cowboy, would be perfect for just kind of looking after her, kind of taking her in for a while. This very strange woman that is suddenly come into town. So again, with this one, we have that forced proximity because she is now living with our cowboy male main character. We also have the fated mates because she realizes as soon as she sees him that this is her fated mate. A little bit of grumpy sunshine in here. We've got hurt comfort because he also has a little bit of trauma in his past. So that is one thing that helps to create a bond between these two characters, because even though they have vastly different backgrounds, you know, he's a human, she's this magical creature, they're not even from the same realm, but they have this deeper understanding of one another because of their past traumas, and they both want the best for each other, and they both are going through this like brief healing phase with each other. It's also super spicy, so I gave this one 4 stars. I adored this one. The characters, they themselves, like when they get together, it's so cute and so spicy. I love that combo, that sweet and spicy type of combo in a romance book. This one is a little bit more insta lust and insta love, which are two tropes that I don't personally really care for, but overall this was just, it was so sweet. I overlooked that. It didn't bother me as much because it was just so good. So I definitely want to read more books from this author, and I believe this one is turning into a series, but the other books haven't come out yet. So, and then the one that might be a little controversial, I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I love a good V.E. Schwab book. I think she is genius. I have gone to some like a talk that she did, and just how her brain works, I'm so in awe of. However, I'm going to tell you up front, I did not care for this book. So this is a fantasy. This is a paranormal gothic story. I feel like it's even wrong to say that there's a romance subplot to this, because the relationship that ends up ensuing in here is so toxic. I can't. So this one is about vampires. It is about 3 different women, and in this story, we are just learning their life story about where they are from and how they end up becoming vampires and their journey with vampirism. This book is very long. It spans about 500 years. With our first character, we're talking about her like in the 1500s when she becomes a vampire, and then we're going through the different years and meeting the different characters, and you're finding out how these different characters finally interweave their stories and how they connect. But this one, so I gave this one 2 stars. I really didn't like this one. This one, I felt like it was too long. It became very repetitive in the story. We're seeing the same types of things happen to these characters. The same type of like lines are said in this story, so it just became very repetitive. The plot, there wasn't really much of a plot because we're just going through these different stories. So I was just kept wondering, what is the point of this? Where are we going with this story? It is much more, I guess that would be more character driven. I don't know. And then I felt like the ending was very anticlimactic because it happens very abruptly. And I remember finishing the book and thinking, what was the point of this? I also just, the feminist in me really hated this because these characters, these women, have been so suppressed, and they are wanting something more for themselves because they are also lesbians. And so especially like 1500s, or we meet another character in the 1800s, that is a big no-no. So these women, you know, they are seeking, they have this hunger to this. This is the overall theme of the book, is that the hunger that people feel, that these women feel. They're wanting more than what their lives are. Especially our first character, she has every single one of her freedoms are taken away from her, and it's the point, like, she's like, why, what is the point anymore? So when these characters become vampires, it is like a slow death. Not, yes, it's not them living forever, it is just prolonged and slowed their death so much, so they technically die when they become vampires. And it describes it as like a slow rotting of their insides and a slow rotting of their soul. So I just kept thinking the entire time that I was reading this book that this is just a huge allegory for women who want to overcome their misogynistic um, suppressors are doomed to fail, are doomed to this inner rot. And I just really didn't like that message that this sent. I also just didn't really care for the message that it sent for the LGBTQ community with our lesbians, because, like I said, the relationship with these characters is so toxic, So this was a no. I did not like this, and I don't, I can maybe understand people giving this like a 3 stars because it the writing of E. Schwab is very beautiful. But this is no. No. Then I read White Tears, Brown Scars, How White Feminism Betrays Women of Color by Rumi Hamad. This is a nonfiction one. I gave this one 4 stars. I don't really know per se how to write nonfiction. I feel like if it moves me or it makes me think, I'll write it or I'll rate it a little bit higher. If it keeps my attention. I did learn a lot about this one. This one is just, it argues about how white feminism betrays, kind of like how the title describes. It's designed to keep the status quo of white supremacy, and it doesn't actually help all women. White feminism is feminism as we think of it is mostly white, and it mostly uplifts only white women. And it has different arguments through history, like the suffragist movement in the 1900s, where they were trying to help get the right to vote for women. Women of color were excluded from that. It was only white women that were allowed to help with that. And Black women and other women of color had to form their own coalitions of helping to get the vote and helping to get rights for women. I also learned, like, this also talked about how white supremacy is prevalent not only in America but across the world, which I had no idea about. So I learned a lot from this. This was at times tough to read because it definitely has that type of, reflection upon myself, thinking about things that I have seen or things that I have done. But I also feel like that's good to have that little bit of uncomfortableness so that you can grow and ask questions and learn more. So I definitely recommend reading this one. I am definitely on a journey right now of learning more about racism and those battles that there are, and just overall trying to be a better person. So I know that's a little bit different from the rest of the books that I read because I'm primarily a romance reader, and that's mostly what I read. But I do think it's important to pick up nonfiction books as well. So I'm going to continue sprinkling those in throughout. Then I read Lovesick by Cynthia A. Rodriguez. This is the first book in her Folia duet. This is a dark romance. This one is our male main character. He is arrested and he gets sent to a mental institution, even though he does not think he has any kind of psychological disorder, but he keeps talking to himself and talking to people that are not there. And he ends up meeting this girl that is at this mental institution, that has been at this mental institution for several years, and he becomes very infatuated with her, and they decide to break out and have their freedoms and live how they want to live. But he becomes more inclined and more aware of her murdery tendencies. So this one was not the book for me. I gave this one 3 stars. I could see where people would like this, especially if you really like a murdery female main character. I honestly think she probably fits in that like psychopath category potentially. But these two characters were so young. I believe our female main character is 20, maybe. He's not too much older than her. So they read very naively, which, I mean, to be fair, that would make sense for how old they are. But I don't know. Reading this just kind of felt like reading a train wreck. Like, I couldn't stop reading it. I kept on just to see where things were going to go. And for the most part, I really did not think this was going to end in an HEA. it does, so it does count as a romance. But it just, I don't know. This one just didn't work for me. Anyway, we're gonna move on. So then I read Washed Up with a Kraken by L.E. Eldridge. This is the second book of her Trapped with a Monster series, but I believe all of the books in this series can be read as standalones. They're all novellas. They're paranormal romance novellas. This one, our female character has gotten a job or an internship, I think, aboard, if I could talk, a cruise ship. And she's a cook, like learning the ropes. And she ends up falling overboard and she's rescued by a kraken, who is our other character. They are non-binary, so I'm going to try my best to remember those pronouns. And they realize that the two of them are fated mates, and so they steal her away to this like home that they have and tell our female main character that because they rescued her, that she owes them like a life debt of sorts, and this is only just a ploy to keep her with them. I gave this one 3 stars. It was fine. It was short. The two characters were very cute together. It was a little steamy, but I really didn't care for that whole scenario where they are lying to her just to keep her there, when like if they would have just been honest with her, she probably would have stayed because she's really, really enjoying being with them. So I don't know. I would probably read the other books in this series just to kind of see if I like them, if I'm in like the monster mood again. Then I read another Morgan Elizabeth book. I read Tourist Trap. This one it might end up becoming a series at some point, but I think she said she's going to put this one on hold and do another book like next summer. So this one is our female main character. She gets a summer job because she broke up with her boyfriend. They were living in LA together, so she's trying to come back sort of near home, coming back to New Jersey, and she always spent her summers at this place in New Jersey on the beach, and she always just remember having such a fun time there. One of her best friends lives there, so she decides to just go to this place instead of her hometown, and she ends up getting a summer job as a lifeguard, but she needs a place to stay. And lo and behold, our main character of the story, who happens to be her ex's older brother, has a room for rent because he is trying to make a lot of money this summer. So he is renting out his extra bedroom in his house to help him with paying his debts that he has. They have a thing for each other. She realizes that it's another grumpy sunshine scenario. She realizes that he's just a workaholic and he never has fun for himself. So she decides to take it upon herself to make him a bucket list for the summer so that he can enjoy his life and enjoy his summer and just have fun. And he's not always so stressed and working all the time. I gave this one 5 stars. This is one of my 5-star reads for the month. I love this one. This was such a cute summer rom-com romance, and I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did. But when we get to these moments where these two characters are finally admitting to one another that they've always liked each other, it's got that like it's always been you type of trope in here. And these two characters are so loving of one another. I was crying in certain parts of this because it was just so beautiful, their love story. This one also might honestly be Morgan Elizabeth's spiciest book. Like, it was pretty spicy. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I don't know. I loved that juxtaposition of how tender their romance was together, but then how spicy it was. I just love them together. I loved it so much. Then I read Deceitful Dreams by B. Subjakin. I might be saying that name wrong. This one is an erotic novella. This is the first book of her Immortal Starts series, which I believe all of these are standalones. Again, it's an erotic novella. This is not meant for the plot. So, I mean, I gave this one 3 stars. This one is about our female main character has just finished college. And so she is planning on road tripping back home, which is all the way across the country. But her new stepdad, that she was not aware that her mother had remarried, doesn't like the idea of her being on her own and traveling across the country. So he comes and he is going to drive her himself to make sure that she's safe. And they have the hots for one another. So again, very little plot to this. The plot that there was kind of, okay, this is weird. If you're going into this, you're purely there for the spice. And if I'm wanting something just spice, like, this is fine. I would consider reading more of these if I was in the mood for it, like the rest of her novellas. She has a ton of novellas, but then she also has started writing her first full-length novels. I think she has like a mafia romance that is a full-length novel. That one I do think I'll probably pick up. So I don't know. If you're in the mood for that, it was fun. And then the last book that I read for the month of August, which is another favorite of mine, is Streams and Schemes by Rebecca Kincaid. This is the first book of the Streams and Schemes trilogy, I believe. I think it's just 3 books. This is a like contemporary romance / rom-com romance. Again, this one is a 5 stars for me. I loved it. This one are 2 characters. They are next door neighbors in this apartment complex. They live in Washington, D.C. She is a cam girl. That's how she makes her living. He is a lawyer. He likes to watch her videos, but she does not know that he watches her videos. They have the hots for one another, but they have not indulged in them or talked to either one. One, because she hates lawyers and has made a vow that she will never ever date a lawyer or be with a lawyer. And he just doesn't know how to approach her because he's like, I don't know what to say to her. That's kind of creepy for me to be like, hey, I watch your videos, you know? So they just don't know how to interact. But at the beginning of the story, they get this late at night, they get this emergency alert text that there is a missile heading towards Washington, D.C., and they are advised to seek shelter immediately, that it's coming in 15 minutes. So instead of actually going to try to find like a bomb shelter or basement or trying to figure out what they're going to do, they decide, we only have 15 minutes. I'd rather just live my moments like doing what I want to do before I die. And so they meet up with each other. You know, she comes to his apartment, wakes him up, and they have a one-night stand. And then a few moments later, after they have had their sexy times, they get another text message that this alert was a false alarm. So now they have to live with what they did. Our male main character is absolutely obsessed with her, so he absolutely wants to immediately is like, we should go on a date. We should, do this again. But she has that vow that she's never going to be with a lawyer, so she turns him down. So it takes a lot of scheming on his part to finally break down her barriers and get her to go on a date with him and realize that they should be together. And in doing so, he just falls more and more in love with her. This was perfection. I loved this one. It has that right amount of comedy and spice. This was so spicy. I loved our female main character is a woman of color. She is very independent and she knows what she wants, which I loved reading about. And I love that she stands up for herself. And then we get to a part where our male main character, he has a lot of growth in this story. He is very sex positive, which I loved. He loves her career. He wants her to do exactly what she wants to do, and he fully supports her career, which I loved. And he doesn't let anybody talk bad about her. Anybody, doesn't matter who it is, his lifelong friends, his family, anybody. He doesn't let anybody talk bad about her or her career that she has chosen for herself. He stands up for her, and I loved seeing that as well. This was so good. I am so mad at myself that I have not read this before. This was amazing. Definitely planning to read the next books of this series because it features both of their friends. And we got a little bit of snippet at like there's an epilogue in this story that kind of shows their friends being together too. So I just can't wait to read those stories of their friends getting together as well. So I thoroughly enjoy this one, highly recommend it. But that is going to be all of the books that I read in August. So I read 10. I don't even remember. I didn't even check off my goals or write down my goals for the month. So we're just going to skip that part because I know I didn't meet some of them. It is what it is. I still think I had a really great reading month, and I can't wait to see what I read in September. So again, if you like this video, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing. Leave a comment down below with some of the books that you loved in the month of August. I love hearing from you all. Or if you've read any of these books that I talked about, make sure you're leaving those comments. But otherwise, that is going to be it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.